I'm going to call to order the meeting of the Whitman Finance Committee on Monday, April 6th. It's now 7:03, and we have a quorum for our meeting. I'm Kathleen Otina. Chuck Colby is here, Hal Cafferty, Jason Hunter, Mike Flanagan, Ann Zuniga, and Kevin Wolf is calling in on his phone. So there are 2, 4, 6, there are 7 of us. And Mike Warner told us he would not be available for tonight's meeting. The purpose of this meeting is to discuss the fiscal 27 budget, especially in light of last week's meeting with the input from the folks who are concerned about the library closing. Has anything changed since then? And so we have, fortunately tonight, we have Mary Beth Carter, the town administrator, with us. Mary Beth and I did meet this afternoon for about an hour to go over. She's been working on a new and improved budget that does not involve an override, that does not involve closing the library, that does involve sharing the burden, but no budgets, no closures of any department. It's just, it's not a sustainable, this is a fiscal 27 solution only. I was spent the weekend thinking, we've got 4 more years after this one, fiscal 31. We're still going to be looking at this until the unfunded pension liability in Plymouth County Retirement is finally paid off. So this is each year we're looking at. Nobody wants to fund an override, but nobody wants their particular budget impacted. So once again, we're sort of down to the wire. Is it 4 weeks from tonight that we meet at town meeting? So Mary Beth has been kind enough to agree to come tonight and give an overview of what she's going to be working to the select board tomorrow night. She can't share the most updated budget with us because she has to share it with her bosses first, but it'll be available after tomorrow's meeting, and I'm sure she's going to be fine-tuning it tonight. So having said that, Mary Beth, do you want to give us an overview, or do you want us to, how do you want to handle this?
Sure. No, I can just basically talk about some of the changes and updates. Mm-hmm. So this is it's another solution. I think it's better than using free cash, and definitely better than touching our capital stabilization, our regular general stabilization fund. We never want to do that. That will definitely affect our rating, our bond rating, especially now where we're going for the Whitman Middle School borrowing for the next 3 or 4 years. So I approached this version number, I think 5, on this budget after the meeting last week. My directive was, see what you can do with everybody sharing the cuts here across the board, and ultimately, if we could come up with a way not to close the library. I did meet with all the department heads on Thursday, and I told them that your budget that you submitted, or I met as well with all the departments like you do. I said what you're going to see on Monday, Tuesday will be different, but we all have to, cut. We have to share in this. I said, so if anybody knows an area, in which they can see one line cut over another in their own budget, let me know. And I have to say that Declan Ware, the veterans agent, I think I had mentioned at last week's meeting that he needed to add one more person for about $8,500. But he said he's actually now he's down a person, so that was good. But he said you can even take that. I took it from 150 to 158, and he said you can bring that actually down to 140 because he's working to get some of our people in town onto federal benefits, so then they come off the towns. So that was a good savings. I'll just run down the budget. I did look at every single budget, and some budgets I cut as little as $50. I know that's a drop in the bucket when I'm trying to find 476. The main thing that I did was the non-mandated busing for the schools. That was $235,000. I zeroed that line out. Now, John Marcus mentioned last week that by doing that, that would reject the district's budget. We're not so sure it will. I know John did check with Desi, and I'm not saying, I don't know if they knew all the circumstances, but we have a very unusual regional agreement that does say that each year the town will decide whether or not to pay. Is that correct?
Correct. That initially the school committee will have to vote whether or not to pay non-mandated busing in their budget. If they choose not to, which they always choose not to, they then send a separate bill to the town. It's actually supposed to be a separate article if you read the language of the 1992 regional agreement. And so to correctly implement it, it should have been a separate article. And then the town meeting votes yes or no. But it is not part of the operating expense. And the operating expense is the one line item we can't touch. We could say yes or no, but we can't reduce it or increase it. So there's a difference in opinion. Kevin?
Sorry, can I ask a question on that?
Yes.
I know non-mandated busing has been a sticking point, and the initial conversations were around the way that is assessed, right?
Yes.
And that Whitman is overpaying, right? And I understand that this is everything should be on the table. Is the goal here, though, to get the school committee to reassess how they are assessing, and then are we expecting to come? Is our hope that they come back and ask us for $180K for non-mandated busing, or are we saying
No,
if this budget goes forward, non-mandated busing will not be paid for by the town of Whitman next year?
it's all or nothing, isn't it?
It's eliminating the non-mandated busing. It's not trying to pressure anybody. Essentially, the town of Hanson would have to agree to split this 60-40 like we split all of the operating costs. So it's not that. It's just $235,000 that we can cut. And we've been discussing it for years at the school committee level. And actually, FinCom several years ago moved not to pay non-mandated busing. So it's not a negotiations, Kevin. It's really a recommendation to cut it.
Have they polled or have we polled the surrounding towns or the regionals to figure out how they handle that particular situation?
I've read other regional agreements. Bridgewater Rainham does not bus anyone under the 1.5 miles because they're not reimbursed for it. So, and this is for years. When budgets got tight, it's like, all right, we can't afford to do this thing that we're not required to do. It's hard enough to do the mandates that are not funded by the state. Every other regional agreement that I have read, and I've read every one that's available online, has the transportation written such that transportation is an operating cost split by the per pupil method. We're the only ones that have this, I call it convoluted, contrived language that splits it out, mandated versus non-mandated.
When did they stop non-mandated busing? Because I remember I walked to school. I went to Manhattan. I didn't have a bus. So when did that stop?
1992. At least that language is in there. The transportation is in there in the 1992
So
regional
before that,
agreement.
people walked.
Well, it wasn't
They got
regionalized.
driven by their parents.
It wasn't regionalized before that. Only the high school was. What was that, Pip?
And well, a couple things. Non-mandated busing, comes into play whether or not you have a regional school district, right? It's for every town. So I looked at the same thing. And there are several towns that do not, that if you want a bus within 1.5 miles, you got to pay for it. So we certainly want to be the only one who do that. And like right now, I think the middle school, I could be wrong, the middle schools already say, I think if you're in middle schools and high schools, I think this is largely paying for elementary school buses within that 1.5 miles. Is that correct?
No. One of the documents that the superintendent provided us with gives us the breakdown of mandated versus non-mandated busing. And most of our kids should be walking. The majority of Whitman.
So I'll say I live under 1.5 miles from the middle school, and I know our middle schoolers are not offered buses.
Right.
Because they have to walk. So I'm saying, if we cut this, I want to understand what we're cutting. And I could be wrong, but I think largely what we're cutting is non-mandated busing to elementary school students. Because I don't think it's offered to middle school and high school students.
No, it is.
Oh, it is, yeah.
It is. There are, this might not be the night to discuss it, Kevin, and I can pull it up and send you an email, but I need to get the Whitman-Hanson budget, and it's going to take me a few minutes to track that down. That they definitely have explicitly calculated how they've assigned the busing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like you said, probably not the night to fully dig into it, aside from the fact that we're cutting, that's half of our cuts to the budget. So it would be helpful to look at.
Yes, I absolutely will get it and send it to you tonight.
Okay, want me to go on from there?
Yes.
Okay. So then I just went through every department budget, cut, $200, $500, wherever I could. Some of the smaller budgets, there really was nowhere to cut. The assessors budget, I didn't cut anything. That's really revaluation expense that we go out to bid every 3 years for. And they have clerical, just salaries, and one expense line, and the expense line was the same as last year. I didn't even add 3%. So the treasurer collector's line, I did end up cutting just a couple of thousand on their expense. That's going to leave them tight. Technology, I did cut $5,905 from the technology budget. However, the technology director came in at $25,905 more per request than last year. So I cut $5,000. He's still up $20,000, and I know he had added things he needed covered, for sure. But I did cut $5 out of his request. Town clerk, I just had cut one item, $500. I did her request for her salary was quite significant. I just used the same formula as we did for every other department head at 2.5. So this budget also gives our non-union raises. And I know that you had said, can you get me a number? I haven't done that yet, and I certainly can after this if you want to. But the first thing that I mentioned at the department head meeting was everyone sharing in this. And I said one of the suggestions was that non-union people go without a raise. And they said, well, does that go for the district too? And will they go without their raises? Mm-hmm. So as we're squeezing the budget and we're reducing salary lines, then to take the good people we have and not give them a raise, we're going to lose these people. And I've worked hard the past 3 years to get key people in places, and the last thing I want to do is lose them. It doesn't help with the morale on an already tight situation. Just going through the budget, these are a lot of small cuts here on the small departments. One significant change is in the facilities department. On that one, I did make some changes. I reduced the facilities manager by $18,614. That was a part-time position a couple of years ago.
Yes, ma'am.
It was like $13,000 that the building inspector got in addition to his salary. So I still kept it at a full-time position, but I did reduce it from 102,105 to 81. And I also eliminated the additional custodial services for $3,000 they requested. It was $2,700 last year. But I did keep the callback overtime line. They have to have a callback overtime. That's $3,000. And then the bulk of their overtime, like for snow and ice, would come out of snow and ice each year, be charged to that. I did also eliminate the external custodial services for $26,500.
Yeah, was that the ones that he would get for the Council on Aging and
the library?
The library.
So I want those duties; those still have to be cleaned, and I want those to fall under the facilities director.
Okay.
So that was sort of, if we rolled it back to where it was 3 years ago, it would be a $18,000 position. But we're going to put in more custodial and more carpentry in that figure. So that was a significant savings. The police department and the fire department, just about $40,000 from each of those, so it's not laying off a person. I'm hoping that the budgets can work with that smaller cut. We didn't want to make it a public safety override.
Is that 40,000 each?
40,000 each. It was 40,500. And then the police chief really came in pretty much level from last year on most of his lines. The fire came up and increased several lines, and I pretty much put most of them back to where they were last year, except for like an expense line. Increased that like 3% on their expenses because utilities and so forth are going up. Building department had a small increase, $500. Most of these are tiny. Animal control.
Can I ask a question?
Certainly.
I'm sorry for not being there in person.
Nope.
When you say the police and fire level from last year, is that level from last year with the addition of the special town meeting money?
Yes, so what I did is I went back to all of the services, both police and fire. I took the voted 26 line and I added 148,000 back to police and fire. And then from there, I calculated 3.5% because they got 2.5% colas, but then they got some other sweeteners in there, some other items, and then I reduced that total number by 40,500. I did that with police and fire, and then DPW I reduced 20,500. Those were some of the big items, other than the non-mandated busing. I talked about DPW. Water sewer's really unaffected. It has a net effect because we take that out. Health department, tiny. I read $100 on one line and 60 on another. Council on Aging. Here's something that I did that is definitely unconventional, but it's doable. And like I said, I'm trying to pick the lesser of all evils here. None of these choices are ideal. None of them are great. But I took the COA budget and I took the expense line of $5,000 and zeroed it out. Well, of course, they have expenses, right? How are they going to pay for them? They do have state grant money, and Mary has
Endowment.
saving that. She's like $269,000 in that line.
Yeah.
So I said I want you to use $5,000 this year and $5,000 next year. Not ideal. She was kind of trying to leave that money, build it up a little bit in case they have a new location to, do some work or whatever. But I did tell her about that on Friday. So
How much does she have in there again?
I'm sorry.
How much does she have in there?
I think she has over 200,000. Yeah, in that line.
Someone left that money, right? Donated the money.
No, that's from this is state money.
Okay. Is there any donated money though?
Yeah, there is. There's a Phyllis Dolan trust fund.
Yeah.
But when we get to library, we'll talk about the trust fund. The veterans, as I said, I cut it from 158.5 to 140, so that was a good savings. When I got to the library, if I were to reduce any more on salaries and people and hours, then they'll be decertified. So I didn't just want to keep them open. I was hoping that they wouldn't be decertified. They're going to ask for a waiver this year. But two things I did that we've not done before that can be done. I ran it by Jen Argenti and the consultant John Adams today. Is I took the overtime line for $2,050 and I zeroed that out. Again, that money I want them to use state aid. They have about, I think, 47,000. So I want them to use 2,000 this year, 2,000 next year. Then I took their OCLN, Old Colony Library Network. They have to pay $30,000. I zeroed that out. Now, we want to be part of the network and we want to pay that. That's a resource. So I checked the Bruno Guerrera Trust Fund. There's about $169,000 in there. So I talked to the librarian today, the director, and I said, she said, well, I think that's just for capital. I said, no. I said, I already had the accountant look at it. They certainly it can be used for resources as well. OCLN fits that. So I said, I need you to use $30,000 this year, $30,000 next year. It's not ideal. However, if we don't do that, I have to reduce personnel. And if I reduce personnel, they're decertified.
And we lose.
Right, and then we lose state aid. And
Losing
so
them off.
she said, I can live with that. I said, okay, good. That's what I want to hear.
Well, you're doing well.
Yep.
And then I just, capital committee, 1,200 to 1,100. I mean, bylaw, I had 600 last year. I'm on that committee. I made it 400 last year. I made it 300 this year. I mean, I'm looking everywhere. And then townwide resources, I looked at legal services, and last year we did negotiate 5 contracts. So I took a look at where we are right now. We still have 3 months to go, but we're going to have a little bit of a surplus there. So I did not I took out the increase that I had put in, and I just level funded it. So that saved us, $8,000, whatever. That helped there. And then I went down to vacation pay for terminating employees. I had originally put in $35,000. I reduced it to $26,500, but then I was short $19, so I took another $19 away. And basically, I think so it shouldn't be a surprise to people that there is somebody who is going to be retiring at the DPW who is expecting to get paid out for his unused vacation time. He's like one of the last people. It's in his employment letter. And I ran it by town council and had them look at the agreement and everything. And he feels that he's entitled to 12 weeks. So this $26,500 covers 12 weeks. Anything more than that the DPW pays him will have to come from his own salary line at the DPW, which means when they promote somebody, they're not going to have the money there. Maybe the full salary. Unemployment costs, because we're not looking to close the library, so I reduced that significantly. And then the medical life insurance, I had calculated at 10.5%. I brought it down to a 10%. I think we're going to have over 90,000 left this year. So I did end up reducing that. And then the fire chief has announced that he's retiring. I did not put his increase in for his, he'll only be here a short time into the new year. So I just level funded that line. Anything he's owed can come out of the regular line there. So I sliced and diced as much as I could, but I got it down to a balanced budget with no override. And then I projected out 28, and it looks like we'll be down 735,000, which is about what we thought we'd be down this year from last year. Those are with very conservative local receipt assumptions. We don't really know what Plymouth County is going to come in. We don't know what medical insurance will be next year. So there's a lot of assumptions in any of these projections. The numbers just aren't there yet. One thing, the cannabis, if you remember, I think it came in at like 10,700.
Yeah.
Well, we just got in. No, it wasn't 10,000. It was only like 2,700. So I think I had said let's move it up to 11,000 for the year. But already, I think we just got in our new money, and it was either Jen Argenti said it's either 5,700 or 7,500. But even 5,700 is a lot more than the 2,700.
For
So
one
that's like a
quarter.
full quarter.
Okay.
The first one that came in wasn't a full quarter.
Okay.
So that will help as well.
The 11,000 that's in the budget is conservative.
It's well, now that we know that today, after we've
After
just got
hearing
this
what you
in,
got for
I think it just came in.
What about our $35,000 we can throw in there from our reserves from the finance committee budget?
It's in there.
Oh, it is okay.
Oh, absolutely.
I think that was coming.
It may not be enough, but
Yeah, I didn't go over
Just
every
keep-
ning, but just to give you the
holding
highlights.
us out, huh?
No, I wouldn't zero that out. Are you kidding?
but we did reduce the finance committee salary by 200.
We did.
I know.
Because
we're
Elizabeth never
see
puts
that
in-
the social media?
Yeah.
See that in social media? Put that out there.
Well, I did look.
We're getting paid.
You only,
Oh, so
you only used 750 in fiscal 25.
Yeah.
Just like the selectmen are
We
paid.
cut
Yeah.
our budget by 9%.
But
Wow.
I did have a question, if it's
Okay.
question time.
Yep.
On the assistant town administrator. I think we had talked about this. It came up, there was a posting that it was a salary range up to 100,000.
That's what we had put.
So I guess
95.
where I'm going is,
Cut
do you
that
put
line.
that at, do you put that at 100?
Right, and so I thought of that as well.
Can I speak?
Yes, because I didn't cut that for a reason.
I think this is one of those lines where we have to be careful because if we don't make the right hire there, and I can't speak for Mary Beth, but you're not taking a 3-year contract. Right.
Nope, I won't be here in 3 years.
Yes. So time's relatively short with Mary Beth. And if we don't make the right hire there, I'm really worried about that office. So for me, for $10,000 or whatever the difference is, I'd rather make a strong hire and know that when transition comes, we're relatively stable. 2 years ago, we weren't very stable. And thank God Mary Beth was here to kind of weather the storm and get us back to a decent spot with the financial team they have now. But with the turnover coming, I'm worried about that, honestly.
Was it a 32-hour work week or a 40-hour work week?
Oh, it's 40.
Is it?
40 plus.
40 plus.
It's hourly.
Don't ask me how many
Salary,
hours I
hourly or
work.
salary?
Salary.
Salary?
I worked last night till 10, Friday night till
Yeah, and you had said you had a fair amount of candidates already?
46.
Yeah, salary. Yeah. Salary.
And probably more still because the MMA didn't have a deadline. The newspaper did, but so there's probably even more. And I know that when I retire, it's not in there, but the average rate for a TA is 200. And I think I'm 173 this year, 2.5, I'm 177.
Yep.
I don't think you'll get a TA for under 2.
Did we have any in-house applicants?
We had 2. We had 2. I don't really feel we should
No, that's
remember
fine.
they
I'm just
actually might not
curious.
want
Yeah,
people to
right.
know they applied. Yep.
Yep.
So there were 2.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, that's totally understood, Sean. We need
40, 40
And so
applicants,
obviously the hire would be with the anticipation of somebody being strong enough to possibly probably move into that position.
I mean, I'm just one member of that team,
Yeah.
but I kind of think about it like technology. You know, if Steve had to step in, he could step in. He's capable. He's number two, but he could definitely play the number one role.
Yeah.
You know, as opposed to somebody who's always going to stay assistant town administrator. That's a different kind of role.
Yeah.
That, in my mind, that's how I envision that role.
Yeah.
You know, someone who is competent, who could step in if they needed to, seasoned, kind of, not a newer hire.
Okay.
I mean, we right now, when I came in the treasurer collector's office, hadn't balanced in 2.5 years with cash or receivables. That's why the consultant is in, and the receivables are up to the minute, and the cash, I think, is under $200 variance from thousands and thousands. So the consultant people might say, treasurer collector and a consultant, there's a reason for it, and I jumped on it, got it fixed, and the accountant's office as well. We had a turnover of a couple of accountants. We have a firecracker in there now. I think I always say Deb O'Brien and Jen Argenti are like my rock stars, you know. And everyone's doing a great job, but we also, you know, we did roll back the building inspector to part-time, and Jim Yule's doing an awesome job.
Yeah.
Declan Ware, veterans, he's doing a great job. We have a new assessor in. She's all on the new growth. So I feel like it's been a total rebuilding, and I don't know if it was COVID or what, that everything kind of, when I came in, I'm like, ooh, we have some work to do.
Yeah.
COVID.
But I think that we're putting a good team in place to bring us forward. So for that reason, I agree with Sean completely on that line.
Just leave it as is.
I would definitely leave it, because if it's comes down to a couple of $1,000s, or, you know, and you don't want to, you want to secure the right candidate, and sometimes, you know, that $5,000 could make all the difference.
Now, who's negotiating that salary?
The board. I mean, ultimately.
Who's the point person for the board, though?
So we have a committee.
Right now, specifically for the assistant town administrator, it's Kyle, myself, and Mary Beth.
And Kathy will have input because, you know, it was her day-to-day activities.
You have 40 applicants, which tells you the economy, where the economy is, and you know, in 3 years, where's the town going to be in 3 years from now? Better financial shape,
Closer to,
right?
hopefully.
Closer to. So that's where you look at that too. You know,
Just to give you some background on the 40 applicants, most of them many of them are like, say, 3 years out of college, you know, looking for that step into like a management role,
Sure.
you know, kind of thing. That's with many of the applicants. It's not too many at like the top tier level where they've sat in a position before, you know, so I think that gave me some feedback about
I'm sure there's the opportunity. If they know she's going to be retiring, there's an opportunity there too. So, and that's going to be in the back of their mind too. So don't just.
They may not know that, but
You let them know.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, you're negotiating. You know.
well, we do want to see who's interested in,
Right.
you know,
Yeah, true.
taking on more.
Right.
Absolutely.
You know, that's the first thing you'd ask. You want to look here a year or
Right.
3 years, or is there?
Where do you
is
see
there-
yourself in
yeah.
5 years?
Right.
You have to ask those questions. I mean, I do.
Right?
We had a couple of
Running this
stepping
town.
stones.
Yeah.
Didn't we have a couple?
Working for the private sector is a lot different than working for the
Yeah.
municipalities. You know, it's a lot different.
Yeah, we had a couple of stepping stone sessions like that, right? We had, between Lisa and
Lincoln.
Lincoln.
well, even before him.
Oh.
Who was it? I mean, I'm going back. a little
You're
time.
going back on ATA. You're talking about Greg Enos?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, we lost him.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
Any other questions
Yeah,
on
what's
this?
the total customer?
Yep.
I had a couple of questions.
Okay,
Sorry.
Mike Flanagan speaking, and then I'll recognize you,
Oh
Kevin.
yeah, thank you, Kathleen.
476. Now is that going to make? That doesn't make the school budget. Full.
Oh, yes. No,
Oh, it does.
I put them in at 4.85%, the schools, fully
They'll be
funded.
Fully funded. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, the school budget is fully funded, so we don't have to worry about the
Their
rejected bus, the assessment being a rejected budget. Okay, Kevin?
That was my primary question, so thank you, Mike. My secondary question is, and I realize this hasn't gone to the select board yet, but we're meeting with the select board tomorrow, and obviously initially there was a lot of talk about an override. Is the thought that this is going to be the only budget we propose, or are we proposing this as the fallback, and we would love to do an override and fund these things fully the way they should be?
It depends who you ask. If you ask me, this is the only budget, no override, but that'll be a discussion for tomorrow night.
Okay.
Some of the selectmen, a couple may say that let's have the override and put it out there to fully fund, and then I will rework it and see how the warrant would read and all that, but.
So they're not looking for a decision from us on a yay or nay on what they make a recommendation on?
Oh, I think tomorrow, yes, whether or not there's an
The
override.
same day without discussion?
The select board?
No. I mean, they want to obviously make the recommendations, right? We don't know what they are, though, correct?
For an override?
Yeah.
Well, so that was the reason that I didn't post the question on the agenda, which sometimes we've done in the past.
Right.
Because is it a library override? Is it a public safety override? Or is it a general override? So I certainly,
So we don't know what it is, though, right? Sure.
If they want to go with it.
It seems like the consensus would be revolving closer to like a general override if we're going to have one, not specifically for public safety or the library. So more of a general override. And my struggle right now is with the amount of how we're getting our revenue. So how much money specifically are we using from the OPEB?
that we're infusing into the budget from the
Yes.
OPEB liability trust fund, $388,000.
Which to me feels high. I would rather that be down closer to 200,000. But that means we'd have to squeeze the budget another 188,000.
Are you proposing the override? Because she's coming in with a no override.
Exactly. So right now that proposal is no override. And I
Right.
think
So
there's
you guys in
I
favor of
think
that,
there's
or
a
you in
strong
favor of
chance-
that?
I think there's a strong chance that we're going to accept that tomorrow. Obviously,
Yeah.
I'd like to hear your feedback, but I think there's a strong chance. My only reservations are with that number. I wish that number was down closer to 200,000. So should we squeeze the budget another 180 to bring that down? So that we're really looking at our projection at next year. But honestly, I hadn't heard the projection before tonight, and that I don't think that $700,000 number is so bad for the projection for next year.
Yeah.
I know those revenue projections are pretty conservative, so I thought it was going to be close to like 1.1. And to me I was thinking that we're just going to kill ourselves next year.
Which it was if we used free cash. It took it from 680 to 1.1. So
So in my mind, I was thinking 1.1, and we're using this, we're just going to kill ourselves next year. But with the just over 700,000, I feel like if we can have new growth that's somewhat decent, and we can have revenue projections that are, realistic, then, we're talking about
Maybe it's not such a big hill to climb.
exactly.
What about in this year too? I mean, I know you said capital committee's coming. Do we really scrutinize some of those projects?
The capital
Yeah.
requests? Yeah, we
Yeah,
spent a lot.
well, scrutinize them even more so, like just so we have some of that. If it's really not needed or can go out a little bit longer, because that'll be coming from different sources, but some of it will come free cash.
Some is free cash, some is from water sewer reserve. Pull it up.
But if we, my thought process is, if there's something that could be set aside, does some of that money go back into stabilization, or just, getting ready to maybe somehow help climb the hill next year?
Okay, that's not the one I got. Too many budgets.
I know. So it's free cash, water sewer,
Thanks, Mary Beth.
retained earnings.
Yeah.
That they have $5,640,285, but that's just for their projects. We have Chapter 90, which is expected at $509,428.89. We have the overlay surplus that was $225,000. We spent a little bit of that at the special, so we have $200,214 left. Out of that, we were going to use towards the TIP project for the DPW and take the balance of $19,786 to make the $225 for that project. Then we had capital stabilization fund, which was $478, $480, $434, and we're recommending a new financial software system. I mean, that's the basis of everything that we do and budgeting and the numbers, and we're beyond end of life. The accountant has no more room for account numbers, so they're wrapping on different pages. I mean, it's time, people. That to me isn't a want, that's a need.
Yeah.
One thing that we didn't actually vote on, and we didn't have a quorum this evening on the capital committee is the fire truck at 1.4 million. So we talked about that being an article, but I don't think that that's going to make this year's warrant.
Right.
We have the South Shore VOTEC debt exclusion, and we have all this controversy over override, no override library closure. So that might not be. Well, it didn't make a vote for this.
Right. Right. We discussed it at length and talked about, could we do a capital override? Could we put money for the net? Because the chief has said you can commit to buying it, put money in an account, and then in 4 years, when the fire truck is available, you have to pay it then. We'd have money, maybe half the cost of the fire truck in that account, and then bond the other half. But we haven't gotten to the point where we're comfortable doing that. So we put it on hold. But the capital committee will be in next Tuesday night to the FinCom to go over. And I'll share the capital committee's recommendations with you shortly.
How much do we have in free cash?
Well, after everything's said and done, we're only going to have $35,322.89. That's after all the articles. We started with $1,050,313. We had 3 articles at the special town meeting in January for prior year DPW bill 2008-3350, and then we had the police and fire CBAs. Fire was $37,002, and the police was $35,026.66. And then we do have a prior year Nexamp bill for $760.63. The rest are all capital articles. That totaled over what we had for free cash. However, if you remember, we talked about money left over from the DPW project that we were going to release back in the same percentages, that they originally came from. So $96,105.17 was going back to the general fund. So after we added the $96,105.17 to the original $1,050,000, and then we take out all the articles that we voted going on the floor, we'll only have $35,322.89. So if anybody, on the floor starts saying, let's do this or that, we're going to just have to, you can't say, let's spend more and where are you taking it from? Or we'll be out of balance in a minute. And that gets confusing to start playing around with numbers on the floor at the last minute.
Brings me to my next question.
Okay.
What if at town meeting they don't approve the zeroing out of the non-mandated busing?
Right. Houston, then we're going to, I think, look at capital. I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know where they'll have to have an idea on where it's coming from. Again, touching general stabilization, I called our FA, financial advisor. He said it absolutely will put negative pressure on your bond rating next year for the Whitman Middle School. And as I said, we're a AA3. So one downgrade puts you into a single A, which is not favorable. So if we want to get keep the taxes down as low as we can on the Whitman Middle School, we have a very stable bond rating for our demographics here in Whitman. And touching the stabilization fund is bad idea. Bad.
But they'll look at the TIPS program. If someone was going to make a swap, obviously, I think the TIPS program is a solid program that we need to keep funding, but I can see that being like a relatively easy, like one for the other.
Dollar-wise,
Yeah.
but it would be a bad idea because it's a $15 million project that we're getting if we put this money aside for 5 years. And for us not to lose out on a $15 million project because we didn't adequately stay on track.
Would we be in jeopardy if we
yes.
did that?
Yeah, I think we would.
Yeah.
I think we would. So I would think that would be a bad idea as well. Like I said, we're making like creative, suggestions here in a tight budget season.
Yeah.
But that could happen.
Question?
Sure.
What are we doing about this overage for the snow removal from our fun winter this year?
Right. So every time I look at it, it's different. It was 212, then it was 242. Today it's 250. The deficit. So I did receive an email because what I would like to do is do reserve fund transfer the last 2 months of the year to close that gap. There will be, of course, that's less free cash, if we're taking that, but still, if not, we have to raise it on the recap next year. So, which basically just takes up space in our levy.
Okay.
So that's not a great idea. So I'd like to find a way to close that. Bruce Martin, I think he said that the trash line will have some money left in it that he could put possibly, I think, as much as $200,000 towards that deficit, and then we'll have to see where we can close the other 50 from. But that would be, I think, the best place to do it.
You're thinking about some closed out articles as well.
Yes. I was thinking about that, and so that would be something I'd have to
Past
look at.
articles that are either they've already spent and there's a little bit left over.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Pulling that money to pay that down.
But that would have to go on tomorrow's warrant for the board. Oh. I can look at that in the morning.
I think we did a lot of that last year. We
Yeah,
looked at all sorts of
Last
Yeah.
minute.
ancient.
I was on vacation after town meeting.
So is that something we need to have squared away for town meeting?
The closing the snow and ice?
Yeah.
No, we can do that the last 2 months of the year
Okay.
with transfers, line item transfers to close that. And that would be wiser for us to do it that way than to raise it on the recap.
Got it. Okay.
Okay. Other questions?
Great presentation.
Yes, Mary Beth, thank you.
Let's see.
Okay.
We'll find out tomorrow night or at town meeting.
And Kevin?
Yes.
Just because I was able to quickly put my hands on that document about the busing. If we look at the number of Whitman students non-mandated busing, there are 308 Conley students, 256 Duval students, and 112 middle school students who are non-mandated. They are on the bus, but they live within 1.5 miles of the school. So you're right that the bulk of them, the vast majority of them, are elementary school students, but there are still 112 middle school students who are bused, who live within 1.5 miles of the school. Okay, and I can send this document to you.
Yeah, it might be that I wonder if the school has cut the difference in, within a mile is not getting buses and 1 mile to 1.5 miles has been getting buses. Because that's a pretty small number from the middle school. But
Yeah.
Can I add one piece?
One second. I believe that the school district uses a piece of software. I can't come up with the name of it off the tip of my tongue, but it calculates where every student lives and how far it is to the front door of the school they're assigned to. So this is, computer generated mileage because we use the mileage method, which significantly increases our reimbursement from the state. So, yeah. Okay, Sean.
and
Wait a second. Kevin?
sorry, just as a follow-up question to that, have we talked with the school district about how they'll handle that and if they're allowed to handle it differently per count?
No. I'm sure it's going to, the superintendent's position is that it's part of his budget request, and if we vote it down, then we are
Rejecting.
rejecting the budget. I completely disagree with him, and I admired John Marcus immensely, but I've been on the Regional Agreement Committee for 5 years now, and my pet project has been to get Hanson to agree to accept their fair share of the non-mandated busing. But when the voting on the regional agreement is 2 Hanson members, a school committee and a select person, and 2 Whitman members, a school committee member and it's a tie. And it's guess how it goes.
I understand that. And
Yeah.
frankly, I trust you on that piece of it, that we can reject just the busing. My question is, have we talked to the school district about if we don't fund the busing, what their plan is, and if they can handle non-mandated busing differently for 2 towns, right? If Hanson passes paying for it and Whitman doesn't, as a unified school district, are they allowed to handle that differently? I.e., can they charge the Whitman residents and not the Hanson residents?
I think that's a question that they're going to wish they didn't have to answer, but it's something that they'll have to, and we might not like the answer they come up with. But right now,
That's I guess what I'm getting at, right? Is that the answer is almost certainly going to be Whitman residents will pay for busing in that mile and that are currently not, right?
yes.
And I just want to this is an incredible amount of work that I think is a budget that we can get behind. I just want to understand all of the implications of everything we're doing.
Yeah, our mandate isn't as simple as saying we're not going to do it. We're talking about 500, 600 and something, 700 children being impacted, and not all of them are going to want to pay. So the school will have to recalculate how many buses do they need, how many routes are they going to run. So it's not a simple, we're not going to pay it. Good luck. It's not. But
Coming to a head now, huh?
yes, it is.
Doing this for 7 years now, right?
A lot of kids get driven by their parents anyway. You
That's
live on
what I
a
was
street
just
with a
trying to
school. I live
say,
on a
yes.
street with a school, and it is slammed.
Yeah.
So
I think a lot of people, your parents are driving the children anyway.
Oh, yeah.
I know my personal, I know people's parents that are driving them that have the bus.
Yep.
So
Yeah, it's time for them at least. I admire John and his team. They've done an incredible job of cleaning up the mess that they inherited, and have restored some credibility to the school budget, thankfully. And a lot of really good, exciting things are going on in the schools. So they've done a terrific job. But I hate to hand them one more problem to solve for us. But it's a lot of money. So. It's not easy making this decision, but it's a budget that's balanced with no override and no significant impact to any one department. Yeah, about the tightening, that's what people on Facebook are saying we should be doing.
We
Is
saved the
tightening up.
library, right?
Yeah, we saved the library,
That's it.
and I'm not looking for an override. And thank you, Mary Beth, for.
well, that's my suggestion.
I know that.
That's a great suggestion. Great suggestion.
So we'll see where it goes from there.
Can I ask one last question?
Sure.
Does Whitman take advantage of the senior worker tax credit program? Does Whitman do? Okay.
Yeah, quite a few.
Yeah, I think there's probably a waiting list.
I think there's a
Is
cap of 18.
Yeah, there's a
Cap.
cap. There's a cap.
And there
somewhere.
are people way beyond 18 who would like to be able to be included in that.
For the taxes, right?
Yeah, $2,000 off your property tax.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
A lot of
Oh, yeah,
interest.
there's
Thanks,
something.
Mary. Can you lock the building, because I don't have the key.
Absolutely. I'll lock the doors now when I leave, and then whenever you guys leave, I'll just go out.
We just go.
Just go out.
Might we give
I'll go
my
around.
kids off and
Three. Thanks, Sean.
You good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you
Have a
very
good
much.
night. You're welcome. All righty.
See you, Sean.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Okay, so
That was awesome. That was great.
she put an incredible
Oh,
amount
yeah.
of work.
That's
It's
fantastic. That was fantastic.
line by line. It's sort of like what we were going to start to do: $5 here, $25 there. Yeah. I think that people don't realize that Mary Beth's skill set as a treasurer collector and Kathy Keefe's skill set as the principal assessor have so totally benefited this town for the 2 or 3 years that they've worked together. They've got the financial background. They're not politicians. They have the financial background to take a look at all of these budgets and hire the right people for the positions the town needs to make sure that going forward, we're in good shape.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds really good. Next year will be tight. I mean, it doesn't get any
Yeah,
easier.
everything's tight though. We got till a few more years before the.
Fiscal 31 will still be on the roller coaster, and then
Right.
hopefully nothing else surfaces and raises its ugly head that makes it impossible for us to just provide the town with the services they want at a price that they can afford.
Absolutely.
So we're scheduled to meet with the select board tomorrow at 7. Once Mary Beth.
6:30, I think, right?
6:30.
I'm so sorry, it's 6:30. That was 7. Tomorrow is 6:30.
Here or over there?
No, in the select board.
Okay.
And I believe there may be a group of folks sitting in the audience, but
Sure there will be. I'm sure.
Yeah.
That's good though. I hope they show up.
yeah.
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 You know, I think it's great.
Is the full committee going to be there tomorrow night? Are you all planning on it?
Yeah, I'll be
Kevin,
there.
will you be able to make it tomorrow at 6:30?
I'll be there.
Oh, wonderful. So the full
You
committee.
going to be there, sir?
Yes.
Okay, so
Dance.
just anything else we want to discuss tonight, or
No, just the question. Is all the other department heads that Mary Beth spoke with, they all in agreement?
they're not happy about it, but it's better than
No, I know.
yeah, better than
I
the
think her
alter.
quote was that they could live with it,
Okay.
right?
All right. All right.
Yeah,
Something
well,
that they're not thrilled about it, but they're given the alternative.
Yeah, I know. True.
yeah, I imagine the police and the fire are grateful that there's not a public safety override where they're both looking at $200,000 being cut from their budgets, subject to a Prop 2.5 override.
Yeah.
So There's no easy answers. Clearly, Mary Beth has spent
No, she does fantastic presentation.
Yeah.
It was a lot.
looking into, grants and whatever trust funds
Oh, yeah.
and convincing people, you can do this.
Research.
I know you can do this.
Right. Yeah. So that's a good use between the library and council on aging. So that's definitely, a share the
Yeah.
burden and a little bit more creative
No,
with that.
sorry.
But going forward, the free cash that's available each year. I mean, it doesn't make it shouldn't be a huge amount, but we're running this tight, so free cash, there'll be less and less to,
Right.
fund.
When the budgets are tight, there's less to turn back
There's
at
less
the
to
end.
turn back.
I know very well that the override probably wasn't going to pass
Correct.
on any of it.
Correct.
That's
Not with it's imminent right now in 2027. All those taxes are going to hit.
yeah.
Yes, they are.
It's not. It's going to be
Okay.
interesting.
And I know we had discussed that maybe we wanted to give more money to the Board of
The
Health and we
Board
wanted
of
to put
Health.
more money to the library, but I sort of think that's off the table.
Yeah, not this year.
Yeah, with the creativity of all that work and the shared burden, it's, can only do it. Can only do what we can do.
Right. So once Mary Beth finalizes this budget, I'll ask her if I can send it to you guys. Not that you're going to have time to work on it between now or when I send it to you and tomorrow night at 6:30, but at least we'll be meeting again next week at 6:30 to meet with the Capital Committee and finalize our recommendations for town
Are
meeting.
we anticipating that the selectmen are going to propose another override?
No, I think if Mary Beth
I
presents,
like Mary Beth, but I mean, do we think that might happen?
Well,
Sounds
they
like
may
it was
discuss it. They
They're
may.
split, right?
Yeah, but they haven't heard this scenario yet.
They've-
So once they hear the
On
scenario,
the override type.
right?
So I think a no override is like the ideal situation because then you're not arguing about which override. There won't
Because
be
you're
an
going to
override.
confuse the hell out of a lot of people.
Yeah.
the year that the Finance Committee came up with
Yeah.
its own recommendation, which totally went
They
against
want
the
to make our
select board.
recommendation tomorrow night, right?
No.
No.
But
But that was my question. That was my question.
No.
They proposed something. They want to, before they propose something, that's why I asked if there was going to be if you proposing an override. Like, well, we didn't know.
Right.
And the bottom line is, you're looking for our recommendation.
They look for our recommendation, a meeting before we're
I
ready to give
remember
it to
that.
them.
It was like,
Yeah.
I go, well, why you want our endorsement? I go, I'd rather discuss it with the finance committee.
Right. No,
Of course.
no, tomorrow night we'll just share how excited we are that Mary Beth has found a possible solution, and we'll keep on working.
Yeah.
All right, anything else that we need to discuss tonight? Mike?
Just for the future, I think maybe we should suggest to the library. I went back and looked at their budget last year, their presentation. And the year before that, they did over 400 in-person events. So maybe I believe that most of them are free. So maybe they should just put like a donation.
Charge your pocket.
You know what I mean?
friends.
Oh, yeah.
An optional,
Yeah.
$2. It doesn't have to be much, but just
Yeah. Like I saw something today, but they're going to have some basic computer classes at the library.
be there with you.
For free.
We have to make,
Yeah, for free.
have to make sure that the money goes into a fund that
Oh,
is,
there you go.
Mike, we need to make sure that the money goes into a fund that is permissible, because the,
Right.
Revolving fund.
the pool can't raise money, because you'd have to have Friends of Whitman Pool, which doesn't
that's right,
exist.
yep.
Yeah.
So, but I think it's a great idea that
Right.
there are people who would be willing. It's like,
Just
thankfully,
like maybe a suggestion, you know what I mean?
Okay,
Type of thing.
right,
Not
suggestion.
like a mandatory thing,
Yeah.
you know?
Can't they do? We were talking about this the other day. Can't they do something similar to what Whitman Little League just did? Where they set up in the center of town and
oh,
We could do that.
the
It's a
toll booth, they call it.
501(c)(3). You know,
Yeah.
we did
They
that.
had
I was
Whitman
involved
Friends
in
of the
that for 12
Library.
years ago.
No.
We did it every year.
Yeah.
We made about 20
People are going to have to get
what I'm
creative
saying,
for the next 4 years.
Well, yeah.
It's a lottery who gets it.
Yeah.
Little things like that might help.
When it comes to revenue and stuff, though, there I think were a few interesting ideas that have been floated around. So, like, this is the time to think about it for next year, right? So
Right.
that way, like, oh, okay.
13 years.
Mary Beth mentioned about, I think, her daughter, like the pool program or the daycare for summer is fantastic, and they'd absolutely be willing to pay more.
Absolutely.
It's so valuable. So
yeah, you can't.
we can,
Yeah, so this is a concept that needs to be considered for any budget that could potentially generate income into an account that then could go to fund their budget,
Right.
one way or the other.
Yeah.
Am I
Of
ready
course,
to?
a great way to get revenue is very tough for this town. You know, bringing in industry or, you know.
Nobody wants to drive down
yeah.
Route 18 to get to work.
Yeah, well, yeah, right. You know.
Okay.
But they should have some growth next year, though. Check with the new apartments are going.
It's all apartments. You need some.
Tail down. It's certainly not a lot, but I mean, it's.
You look at these towns that do well, they have a lot of money. You know, your Braintrees, your Avon.
Yeah,
you know, what do they got? They got some
commercial.
good industrial park, commercial.
There's still-
We don't tax our commercial tax rate, and rightfully so. It's the same as the residential because the commercial is tiny.
And those towns that have, Hanover has an incredible amount of commercial,
Retail.
and they are looking at a $6 million gap. So
Yeah,
it doesn't.
yeah,
I keep thinking, well, we're looking at less than a $500,000 gap. Good for us. I mean, it's not good for us that we have a gap, but compared to Marshfield's looking at 7.5 million.
Yeah, middle
We had used car lots, so I
Good
don't know.
luck.
Can we increase
Good
the car
luck.
lots?
So I think having industry, having money, you do spend it.
Yeah.
So I think it's best that we do have a fairly conservative, we have a small budget, and Mary Beth is squeezing every penny out of these budgets that she can. So
Yeah.
we're lucky that we have her.
Can I ask one last
Sure,
question?
sure, Jason.
Any word on Mike Andrews, or if we're any closer to replacing him, or
No.
if he actually resigned?
I asked this afternoon, because we were missing, as I said, we didn't have a quorum at our capital committee meeting because we have 2 vacancies and then 2 people didn't show up. 3 people didn't show up, actually. And so I guess what I'll do is I'll send Mike Seeley an email saying, Mike, do you have anybody in the pipeline that wants to be a member of the
Did
the
he
finance
officially
committee?
resign? Do we know?
Yes, he did send a letter.
Oh, he did.
Yeah, he has.
So,
He did resign. I believe I received a copy of that letter. Yep. All right, am I ready to entertain a motion to adjourn?
It is 8:00.
Okay, we're gonna have to do a roll call, so who would like to make the motion?
Make a motion?
Al and Jason? Okay, roll call. Kevin? Is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. Al?
Yes.
Sorry, Chuck?
Yes.
Al?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
And I am also a yes. Thank you, everyone. This
Thank
was a
you.
really
Thank
good
you.
meeting.